So now we've got some of the wall plates on, we're going to bolt this one down to the steel. So I've got continuous lengths here, you know, you can put it in bits, but I like to get as long a length as possible. I picked these out, as you know, from the merchant, so when they were delivered, I knew I wasn't going to be sending them back as the summer, and a lot of the timber in the merchants, when it gets baked by the sunshine, it just goes all over the place. And to be fair to the guys, you know, they're basically yard guys or whatever, they've never actually built anything from timber before, so they probably wouldn't even appreciate if the timber's got a bit of bend in it. They load the lorry, they've got to get it all done and send it out. So that's why I like to go and select as much timber as possible. Anyway, the first job is, because it's a double plate, I'm going to screw these together. I'm only going to screw them, say a pair here, a pair there, so 4 pairs all the way through there. Keep them nice and flat and flush to each other. Then we'll position it exactly where we want it in relation to the steel, and we'll mark up through the underside, turn it over, drill them through, and I'm using an M12 bolt, M12 130, and then I want to recess the heads as well, because our joists might fall where these are. I mean, generally they always do. So I'm going to recess the heads in as well. Now ideally you want to recess the head, then drill through, but because we're drilling up through from the other side, we're going to have a gaping great hole. And when you try and use this, which has got a point in that hole, it's going to skate around all over the place. So I'll probably knock up a little bit of ply, drill through it, offer that over that M12 hole, and just cut out the difference. All right, so let's get that done. First of all, let's use some of these spack screws to just fix it together. These are wafer heads, so they're not going to keep pulling through the timber, they're going to pull the timber together. I don't need a pilot hole. They're super strong, they're the Wirox range, so they're anti-corrosion as well. So they're all things to all men, and I absolutely adore these. So I'm just going to get this together. I'm going to put it, even those are slightly different widths as well, so you can never tell. I'm just going to get a pair at this end. Let's turn the power up on this one. There we go. So the object is just to clamp them flat for the time being, because it obviously undulates a bit. So we'll get down here, go around about here. On the back there, get him out of the way. Damaged by the crane. That's it. Put a pair here. Just make sure there's no holes there. And that's going to clamp them absolutely perfectly. Feel them pulling together. So a normal screw, countersink screw, would be no good, because it would just keep pulling its way through the timber. And we don't want that. What we want is, we want the timber to be tight together. So we'll get another pair somewhere around here. Let's just make sure there's no holes I'm going to hit with my drill. We don't want to drill into these screws. The other thing about this is, as it's not a countersink screw, it's not going to split the timber, it's going to just pull it. You can absolutely feel it, it's lovely. Well, that's nice and flat and straight now. So all I'm going to do now is pull it to where I want it. Now I'm going to keep this end tight to here, so I'll just slide it along. And I think we will run it with the back of the blockwork, but we'll keep it parallel because I'm happy with the steel position here. So if I just check what that is here, let me just see. It's about 12, that's 12 mil. So we'll go and pop that over there. This is all dead square now. So if we go 12 mil here as well, I'll clamp that on, I think. At least that will hold it exactly where I want it. So just to go a bit back from our setting out video, so that was quite a few episodes back. So we remember that this is a bit of extension that was built it's about 15 years ago, we estimate, by some of the old newspaper cuttings that we found. And this building, it's lovely and parallel, and they pulled it off of the flank that was over there. So this is all at square, and it comes back around here. Then we pulled our new extension off of this dead square too. So the building is at 90 degrees. The back wall, the wonky wall, was the one which was part of the old piggery, and that is more with the road than anything else. It's on a funny sort of boundary. So the whole of the building, I'd say 65% of the perimeter walls now are all 90 degrees and square to one another. It's just the back one which is slightly out of parallel, but only from about where the middle of that window is, then it starts ramping in. So we'll have a soffit there which is tapering, but basically we get a lovely square house. So this steel here is obviously square at 90 degrees to that, and everything else is paralleled off of that. So I'm going to drill this on. I've clamped it where I want it. I've got it butted up to there because I think we do have a joist landing quite close to this end here. The other end of it is this side of the end wall, the flank wall. Now all we need to do is mark this up, every single hole from underneath. We'll mark this up, I'll get my pencil, and then we can turn it, we can drill it, and then we can place it back and put the drill bolts all the way through. But actually I've got a chippy pencil here which is short enough to do the job, because I think my tracer is actually a bit long. So what we'll do is we'll make this into a bit more of a point, skinny it down a bit more. That's the beauty of a carpenter's pencil. You know, it's, a lot of people don't know this, but it's like the shape it is for a reason. First of all, that's 1/2 inch. That's 1/4 inch, yeah? So sometimes you can space things out with these, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch. So therefore, that's 1/4 inch for a scribe if you're at a point, if you're that way. It's 1/8 inch if you're that way. So I could do that in millimeters, but it's gonna get a little bit tricky. But I do love a carpenter's pencil. You cannot beat it. And actually, I found a bargain, and it's on my, if you look in the link in this description of this video, there's a link to Amazon. It's like a store where I sort of look at stuff and think, now this is quite nice stuff, this is worth having a look at. And I have a link there to, I think it's 20 or so in the packet for about 10 quid. So it works out really, really good value. So maybe have a little look at that. So I've made this a bit narrower now, and then I can use this in those holes. That's it. So I've got holes on either side of the steel, either side of the web if you like. So I'm going to start this end and work my way down. Now where do we have? That's the first one here. So I'm looking for one every 600. I can tell because I can actually see the iron filings in places where they've dropped out from underneath. So there we go, right here. You can drill up through if you've got an angled drill and a short enough auger bit, but actually with a 152, this is called a 152, this steel, so it's 152 mil tall. But so if you've got an angled chuck, an auger bit, you can't get it in, so you can't really do it. Now the drill bit I'm going to use is an auger bit, so it's a parallel threaded drill. It's very sharp, it's got a scribe and a chisel at the very end, so it scribes and the chisel digs out, and they're really lovely. And a nice sharp auger bit is probably the best drill bit that you can use for carpentry, I would say. And the other reason why I like it as opposed to a speed bit or a flat spade bit is because when you've got a flat spade bit, you can do this with it. You can actually steer with it, and it won't necessarily always pull through square. So if you're going to put a bolt through the hole, you want that hole to be nice and straight, because you're banging it through and it's going to start getting tighter or whatever, so we don't want that. So now this is ready for drilling. I'll undo that and we'll get this drilled. I'm being harassed by a wasp at the minute, and that's not a good thing when you're up on a roof. Look, there he is, look. He's harassing me. He wants to land on me. Oh, please. Don't want you buzzing around. Let's pull that back that way. There we go. That's it. Check all my holes are marked. Looking good. And then we've got an auger bit. I want to show you this auger bit. That is an auger bit. It's got a scribe and it's got a chisel. It's also got a thread at the top which pulls it in. Now, a little tip, if you don't want this to pull really fast, you can pilot first with the small pilot bit, and then the screw just won't keep pulling through. You'll have to give it a little bit of pressure, but I'm not fussed about pressure because it's nice and sharp. The other thing is it's the right length, so you need to get one that's the right length. So what I don't want to do is go through and hit the steel. So pull this side forward of the steel here to get these holes, and then we'll start by drilling that out. There's an optimum speed. You can drill these fast or you can drill them slow. Now if I turn this down, I'll show you the same difference. On slow speed, it just takes a lot longer. And it's not so much fun. So what we need is we need to recess the bolt head back, and we want a little bit of clearance around it. So we can use this. And because I know I've got some clearance around it, where the timber is close to the edge of that plate, I can just bring it this way a tiny bit more because I know I've got some clearance around it, and it will still make so we're not drilling too much through the face of that. So we're going to flip that over, brush the steel off, drill these heads, put it back, put the bolts through, and bolt it on. I'll turn it over. We'll give this a quick sweep off. And that's it. Make sure there's nothing between it. We don't want the whole roof held up by some sawdust. There we go. So you can see where we came through. Now we use our plate that we just made, because we can't use the drill bit because it's got nothing for the point. So what we need is this, basically like a profile, and we can just offer that over the front like that. Now that will be a guide. Hold it firmly, don't need to clamp it. Nice speed. And you've got that lovely hole now for the bolt head. So again, I want to keep it, because these ones, because of the fact this is quite narrow timber for the whole top of the steel, we can recess it here. And so on. But that's so satisfying because with a nice bit of speed, that's perfect. Those bolts are recessed nicely. Actually, this drill's got a thing on it which is kickback. Let's try that. Which one is it? That one. finger on trigger. Because some of these bits, you know, that if that keeps going, these drills are so powerful, especially these fuel stuff. 18 volt, yeah. I mean, let's see if it will do that as well. See, it stops. But I like a bit of power. So hold, spin, hold, spin, and cut. Look at that. That's beautiful. Hold, speed. Oh, look at that. Is that just so nice? Don't you just love some things? I mean, that.
Those Festool bits are absolutely beautiful.
They are, Ed, and also, I mean, that one there is just the biggest one of that set, but, I mean, you've got to look after them, though, you know? You don't want to get these out when you're just drilling through the sides of joists, you know? That's where you get your cheap spade bit. If someone insists on you drilling a hole through a joist for something, and they say, oh, come on, carpenter, come and do that, you don't get them out. You get these out when you really want to do something nice, just like this, where you can just, oh, I mean, look at this, it's heavenly, isn't it? You just pop it on. Oh, it's just heavenly, that. And then just, obviously don't push down into the timber there. You want to start it just off, look. Get the power up. I mean, it's just absolutely crisp. And this one's a classic because this one's obviously quite close to the edge here. So I'm going to actually cut down through the face. So that'll be interesting to see how that behaves. I mean, look at that, such a nice, neat cut. So that's ready now. It's the right way up and it's ready. All we need to do is locate the first couple of bolts. I'm going to put one in at each end and then we'll just go feeding them through. I've got a podger. Now what a podger is it's not a portly friend, it's a spanner, but it's a spanner with a spike on the end, which you can use for actually sort of, I'll show it to you. That's the easiest thing. So this, let's just put this out of the way, on a bit of timber. This is a podger, and sometimes you can use that to line the holes up as well. You know, I mean, in this case, it's not that easy because I'd use it from the steel underneath because obviously it's not long enough to go through. But that's the idea of a podger. But the bolts will be fine. We can just, we know it was all pretty square. So let's just get rid of this dust on here. Make sure there's nothing underneath. Once we've got the first couple in, we'll be laughing. So that's the first one. And we can put them all through. They should all find there perfectly now, because that's handsome, isn't it? That's it. Couple more. And job's a good one. Such a satisfying job. And that's going to hold my roof.
Oh mate, that was. Oh, and it's good like.
So that's it, we've got all of our timber and they just brought my car back from being serviced. Anyway, this is the only red and black I can afford. Certainly can't afford an F40.